In 2018, the journey started with the Safety Summit in Dubrovnik. The next station was Porto, with the European Rail Safety Days in 2021. In 2023, Tallinn was the place to be for railway safety. Today, we have arrived in Krakow for the 2025 European Rail Safety Days. In 2018, the journey started with the Safety Summit in Dubrovnik. The next station was Porto, with the European Rail Safety Days in 2021. In 2023, Tallinn was the place to be for railway safety. Today, we have arrived in Krakow for the 2025 European Rail Safety Days.
So, welcome again, welcome back to the room. I hope you enjoyed this coffee break and had some interesting discussions about the topics that were presented today and earlier before. We're moving to our next session, which will focus on bridging organizational borders. So, without further ado, I would like to invite the chair of this session, Nora Balfe. And a big hand, of course. And Nora Balfe has been the head of the human factors in the Irish Rail, the infrastructure manager for the Irish railway infrastructure. She's been working on topics related to human factors and safety culture in the company. She has a PhD in human factors, also as a member of the UK Chartered Institute of Ergonomics and Human Factors, and with over 20 years of experience across rail, aviation, and road transport, having different roles both in regulation, consultancy, academia, and operating companies. So once again, thank you, Nora, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Christoph. I'm going to stand up here because I'm a lot shorter than Christoph, and maybe you can see me better if I stand on the stage. Hopefully you all had a really good break, enjoyed some pastries, and you're ready to listen to a really interesting session on crossing organisational borders or boundaries. Thank you, Christoph, for the introduction. So I work in Irish Rail in central services, actually. So I'm head of the human factors team, and we try to apply human factors methods and approaches to a variety of safety issues, investigations, change management. We work on a lot of different change projects, and also, of course, safety culture. And we do that both within the railway undertaking and the infrastructure manager. So safety culture is a big topic for us, of course, and it's interesting working in central services and across the two different divisions of the company, trying to bridge that border. And we have 4 really interesting presentations today on this topic of trying to come maybe from a bit further away from the front line, but try to understand what the safety culture is and look across and within organisational boundaries. So that's probably enough talking from me, I think. I'm going to introduce our first speaker. I'm going to get my notes in case that I get anything wrong. So Johanna Francois from SNCF. She's held various operational positions in SNCF Riso and also was safety manager there, and has also been an ops manager at SNCF Voyager. She's now safety director at the SNCF Group, and her talk is going to be about practical application of the SNCF safety culture model across the group. So please, Johanna.
Thank you, Nora, for this great presentation. Hello, everyone. You know who I am. I am an engineer with a lot of mud on my boots. But do you know who is the group SNCF? Yeah. The SNCF group employs 290,000 people worldwide, including about 150,000 people in France, for managing the railway infrastructure with SNCF Réseau and SNCF Gare Connexion, as well as passenger and freight transport with Rail Logistique Europe and SNCF Voyageurs. In order to get a factual view of our safety level, it's essential that we connect with the operational reality our members of staff deliver the service. Operational safety is achieved on the field and not from our offices in Paris. Thus, we have a safety program called PRISM. You can see on the screen, and in this program we have defined the SNCF Group safety culture model. This model is fully consistent with the model proposed by the European Union Agency for Railways. You can see on the screen, I think it's fairly standard with safety leadership, shared risk awareness, just and fair culture, learning organization, balance between prescription and adaptation, and of course, organizational and human factors. Today, we are introducing a methodology for assessing the group safety culture, because according to the principle of operational excellence, you can't improve what you don't measure. However, assessing a culture is difficult because a culture is inherently complex. We therefore rely on three elements combined together. First, we gather managers' perceptions using a self-assessment grid. The grid will be ready in a few weeks and will be used in 2026. It's very simple. Our teams will answer common questions on safety management and safety culture. Some questions can be specific to a particular company too. And the grid will then provide them with a maturity level and highlight for areas for improvement. Secondly, we will seek the perceptions of operators through an annual questionnaire, but with different questions each year over a 3-year cycle. We will launch this questionnaire in March 2026 for the first time. Finally, we carry out field sampling. This is not an audit. It's not included in the safety report that we produce as part of railway safety management. These observations are made by a pair consisting of a safety auditor but trained in organizational and human factors, and one organizational and human factors expert from my department. At the end of the samplings, the results are shared with the director of the operational entity, and he or she does whatever you want with it. We conducted a test in 2024. By 2025, we will have made 9 observations, and the planning is ready for 2026. Please note that the SNCF group participates in the peer review developed by the European Union Agency for Railways and accomplished by International Union of Railways. A peer review of an operational entity is equivalent to a field observation. I would like to invite you to listen to the testimonial from my colleague Cécile, who is operating in the north of Paris. Her team transports more than 200,000 people every day.
se lancer dans la démarche. Une conviction. Une culture, c'est un sujet qui est difficile à évaluer et ça ne s'évalue pas en statique. Donc on a un véritable intérêt à faire un constat à un instant donné, comme une photo, par rapport à un certain nombre de critères qu'on estime être essentiels pour la culture sécu. Laisser passer le temps, les travaux, les acteurs, et derrière, reprendre une deuxième photo et voir quel est le différentiel. Et de ce différentiel, faire un film et s'assurer qu'on va dans la direction qui est celle que l'on souhaite atteindre. Donc ça, c'était le pourquoi général de la raison. Pourquoi est-ce que ça a eu un intérêt de le faire à ce moment-là sur les lignes H et K ? Eh bien, nous, on est dans une grande évolution pour se préparer à l'ouverture à la concurrence et nos équipes en charge du management de la sécu et du portage auprès de l'ensemble des opérationnels et des managers qui en sont les acteurs quotidiens, elles étaient diffuses dans les différents établissements et on en a fait une seule entité mutualisée au sein de la ligne en charge de culture, sécurité et environnement. Et comme entre mes deux photos, j'ai ce grand changement, je veux m'assurer qu'on va dans la bonne direction et que ce qu'on souhaite en termes de culture, d'imprégnation, de cible pour les lignes H et K va dans le bon sens. Un bénéfice fort pour moi de ce diagnostic, c'est qu'il traduit l'importance collectivement, avec le CODIR des lignes HK, on attribue à cette culture sécurité. On décide de donner du temps de nous, CODIR HK, mais aussi de nos managers, de nos agents, pour que le diagnostic qui va en ressortir, il soit une matière à valeur pour nous. Donc, c'est pas tout de dire on appelle de nos voeux une culture sécurité. L'enjeu était de le traduire en actes. On dit qu'il n'existe pas d'amour en dehors des preuves d'amour. Ben voilà, on voulait des preuves de notre culture sécu.
Thus, in 2026, we will have the three elements for the first time, and we will have our first safety culture assessment to help us progress. Having a safety culture model is implementing it and measuring it is all well and good, but acting in line with this model is essential if we want it to work. I mentioned our safety audits. Like every railway company, we have an audit system to assess our level of railway operational safety and also occupational health and safety. As a big company, we have an internal structure that carries out these audits. The aim of an audit is to obtain a sample from the field that reflects the reality so that you can identify the real areas for improvement. However, the auditors were conveying a rather different image. Among themselves, over coffee, for example, they said that an audit should be something to be feared. It's difficult to obtain trust and transparency when you think like that. So it was necessary to move from this coercive stance to another, more supportive to help progressing, but demanding to strictly comply with rules. In French, we say bienveillance sans complaisance. This was a real cultural change for our audit department, and we also had to prove to the operational entity that they could open their door completely with confidence and transparency. Thus, the auditors were trained, and the format of the audit also evolved. From now on, the audit is prepared in advance in order to share the strengths and the areas for improvement that the operational entity has identified for itself. This enables auditors to relax their scrutiny if they find that a particular area is indeed a strength, while allowing them to investigate more thoroughly the difficulties encountered by the entity with the ultimate aim to help it to take actions. Today, those being audited take greater ownership of the audit and making it their own. People feel more free to speak their minds, and the reality of the situations emerge along with areas for improvement. We also have another sampling system with the General Safety Inspector who can go anywhere at any time. He can simply call an operational entity and inform them that he is now at the front door, ready to carry out an inspection on a given subject. Surprise, surprise. He can also arrange an appointment several weeks in advance to discuss follow-up actions relating to a safety incident. Together, we compile a list of incidents that warrant a review of the follow-up actions. This approach provides us with a comprehensive overview because the operational entities appreciate the visits, perhaps because the reports remain confidential between the inspector and the entity, and do not result in an assessment. It's an important point. And this allows for freedom of speech. It's also an opportunity for operational entities to share their difficulties. The inspector often returns to me or to the society, to the companies, with different questions to be addressed. And this willingness to listen and to help is greatly appreciated. We also have a safety thread. Anyone can email a generic address, which we call the safety channel. The message is sent to the General Safety Inspector, who will investigate the matter while guaranteeing the anonymity. We recognize the importance of being present on the field, supporting our operational entities rather than punishing them. And this applies to all aspects of safety. In terms of occupational health and safety, there is still a long way to go. But we encourage the management of our operational entities to collaborate with operators. We have rolled out the safety behavior turn. The aim is to facilitate an adult-to-adult discussion about the risk and the measure to be implemented to prevent, reduce, and mitigate them. It consists of thoroughly observing how a member of staff, whatever his seniority is, behaves to take care of both himself and his colleagues. And this thorough observation is followed by an open-minded discussion to share the facts, appraise the risk, and identify any correction for a win-win progress. Thanks to it, we have reduced our injury frequency rate by 25% over the past 7 years. But being present on the field with our members of staff is important, but it's also important to be present on the field with our partners. Following several fatal injuries at work in 2023, we decided to take actions. Our infrastructure manager, SNCF Réseau, launched the program Nos vies, notre priorité, Our lives, our priority, with its partners, taking immediate, agile operational actions by strengthening briefings, developing the stop-and-go method, and conducting common field visits. At the SNCF group level, we launched tous partenaires en sécurité, all partners in safety, which incorporates this operational dimension developed by SNCF Réseau, as well as addressing the upstream aspects of how we award our contracts. Our initial finding was that we had internal principles such as the safety culture model, which were not shared with our partners. Consequently, we did not require them to have a common safety culture. We changed that, and since June, it's recent, we have been sharing a charter that sets out the elements of the safety culture to which we are committed and which we expect from our partners. These charters include a shared vision, a safety leadership with managers present on the field, a just and fair culture, and the stop-and-go method, and so on. And we are also raising our subcontracting requirements by ensuring that contractors implement safety management with their own providers. As a conclusion, I would like to say we need to know how it truly works on the field. Modestly, but with real convictions, we will look for reality by implementing our safety culture model, by assessing our maturity in it, but especially by ensuring the consistency of our managerial actions with its model. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Johanna. I didn't bring chocolates for people who ran on time, but you would have got one if I had it. That was really interesting. Thank you very much for the presentation. A lot of practical methods on how to collect data and get close and understand the workplace reality from maybe further back in the organization. So I'm sure we'll have lots of great questions later on from the audience for you. So I will introduce our second speaker now. So we're going to hear from Bartek Kuf from ERA. He's the head of safety and operations. His career started in the Belgian railways as a civil engineer working on the Eurostar terminal in Brussels before he moved into an audit role. He initially joined ERA in 2008, working on railway accident causes and investigation guidance, and then he returned to the Belgian railways, this time as head of methods and safety. And then he rejoined ERA, so he must have liked it a lot, and he now leads the safety and operations team there. He's going to present to us on the train collision in Tempe in Greece, and particularly on the lessons that we might learn as European railways in general. So please, Bart.
Thank you, Nora. I still don't know whether I need to consider it as a privilege or a curse. But with my colleague Fabrizio, who's standing at the backside of the room, from the end of 2023 until the beginning of this year, we actually assisted the Greek national investigating body, EODASAM, with the investigation of this catastrophic accident that happened in Tempe, Greece. So what I will present to you today, knowing all the limitations accident investigations have, definitely if they can only start 1 year after the accident, I will present the findings of this investigation and the important lesson I think we should learn from this accident. Can I have, okay, back. Okay, there we go. So, on the evening of February 28th, 28th of February 2023, passenger train IC62 with 352 persons on board and traveling from Athens to Thessaloniki departed Larissa station at 11:05 with a delay of 48 minutes. At almost the same time, a freight train left the station of Nepori towards Larissa, also with a delay on the planned schedule. Shortly after 11:18, both trains collided head-on, with the freight train registering a speed of almost 90 kilometers, while the passenger train was traveling at an estimated speed of 150 kilometers, both well within the allowed speed restrictions. The shock was violent, and while the two locomotives of the freight train were pushed to the adjacent track to come to a crash against a vertical retaining wall, the locomotive and the first-class passenger car of the passenger train were catapulted to the other side of the track, where they landed on the ground below, completely destroyed. In the meantime, a second near head-on collision occurred between the wagons directly after. so it was a collision between the restaurant car of the passenger train and the first car behind it, and they collided with the 3 vehicles of the freight train who were carrying steel plates. Meanwhile, an enormous fireball had formed and it appeared to move with the passenger train, and in the resulting fires, on the lower ground, the restaurant and the second-class car were completely burned out. In total, 57 people, a majority of them in their 20s, lost their life in the accident. 81 people were seriously injured, and 99 had minor physical injuries. In addition, a substantial number of people, directly or indirectly involved with the accident, suffered shock and/or emotional trauma. So the collision between the passenger train and the freight train could happen because both trains were traveling in opposite directions on the same track between the stations of Larissa and Nepori. The station master, so the signaler, he did not use the automated method to set the route for the passenger train to leave Larissa station to the north, which would have positioned all switches correctly. Instead, he commanded the individual switches manually, and while doing so, he forgot to place the switch 118 A and B in the main position, herewith guiding the passenger train towards the opposite direction of normal travel. Given the available evidence, it's very unlikely that the station master had the intention to put the train on that track. Nevertheless, this mistake was further unnoticed by the station master, who was working alone. These actions and decisions of the station master need to be understood in the difficult operational context he was confronted with. The control panel he had to use was contained relevant information in different places. Different ways of operating switches were used interchangeably, and clearly written instructions were not available. This may be easy to operate by more experienced station masters, but as it was the case for the station master operating that night, who had only finalized his training less than 1 month before, this was not evident. In addition, his normal workload was severely strained by a long list of aggregating factors. There were a series of technical failures, both temporary and not so temporary, which created additional tasks or made existing tasks more difficult. He had to deal with an unprecedented number of communications over 3 different communication tools. And I mean, if I recall it correctly, I think in the last half hour, we noted almost 50 individual sequences of communication, some of them overlapping on 3 different tools. In addition, the design of the working environment, due to the positioning of these various tools that he had to use, did not allow for conversations to be held while also looking at the train traffic. So he had to be directed in different ways. And finally, his attention, both cognitive and emotional, was occupied by the correction of an earlier error he made when setting the route for another local train. In the following sequence, the authorization for the passenger train to leave the stations toward the north was given verbally by the station master, and was not confirmed through readback by the train drivers of the passenger train. This stayed without reaction by the station master, leaving it uncertain how the message was understood by the train drivers. This sequence of activities was highly affected by a general lack of strict application of the prescribed structured communication methodology. Also, the methodology prescribed by the Greek rules is outdated compared to more recent international standards, and the use of an open radio communication channel, which is common in Greek railways, does not allow for direct, uninterrupted safety-related communication between the station master and train drivers. So everyone can speak whatever they want over that radio channel, whether it's football results or safety-related communication, which happens. Ultimately, the potential barrier where the train drivers of the passenger train could react to the conflicting information between the position of the switches and the authorization, the movement authority they had received, it was missed. And although they would be expected to stop in front of the wrongly positioned switch and contact the station master to get clear instructions, there is no indication that the train drivers reacted on the position of the switch, not being compatible with the received orders. The main factor that can explain this is that it was not unusual for train drivers to be put on the opposite track. This also happened earlier in the day on the section in question. And for the train drivers involved, even in the section they were running on, to come to the Larissa station. And it was daily practice. All these actions and decisions also need to be understood in a wider context. The Greek railway sector suffered highly from the economic crisis that started in late 2009 and reached a peak in 2010. This resulted in poorly maintained and increasingly degraded infrastructure and a structural shortage of staff, while they still continue to provide the usual service. From this, the railway system had not recovered yet in the beginning of 2023. The infrastructure manager did not provide in any preventive maintenance of its assets for signaling. Interventions only took place when critical assets failed, and this was even the case for renewal projects that were only partly put in service. In addition, it also appears that no criteria or arrangements existed to adapt the maximum allowed speed to this degraded condition of signaling. Furthermore, the way the IM is managing the competence of its station masters did not guarantee that they are competent in safety-related tasks under all conditions. Also, no structured monitoring was performed in whatever way, leaving the IM unaware of any deteriorations in the performance of safety-related tasks. It's clear that the necessary interactions between humans and other elements of this socio-technical system, whether technical or organizational, were never taken into account by the IM, by the whole system. This resulted in the equipment used, the demanded tasks, and the available work environment, and the overall organizational arrangements, stretching the limits of the operational staff beyond what is humanly acceptable in a sustainable way. In addition, a strong belief reigned that all operational tasks can be controlled by strictly applying rules under all conditions. Talking about culture. This had also an impact on the train drivers, who were confronted with changes to ongoing works and or failing assets also on a daily basis. This required continuous alertness and a high level of individual resilience. In that context, the concerned railway undertaking could not demonstrate that they had put in place an ongoing training, or they were even monitoring any any safety-related activities in a structured way to identify variability or deterioration. Like we all know, the European framework provides a layered system of controlling to oversee the safety functioning of the railway system. By lack of a national investigating body to perform the independent analysis of incidents and events, it was only established after the accident. The capability of the Greek railway sector to learn from adverse events relied entirely on the investigations performed by the operators through their SMS. These internal investigations, however, by focusing on the errors made by individual frontline staff, systematically lacked the necessary depth to introduce sustainable changes. Herewith, seriously limiting the learning potential to an extreme minimum. This situation was further reinforced by the way the National Safety Authority focused on non-compliance in its supervision, investigation, analysis, and recommendations. As a result, there was absolutely no sector-wide potential for learning from previous accidents and incidents. The National Safety Authority, when issuing the safety authorization for the infrastructure manager, did not identify any of the already mentioned weaknesses. Afterwards, they were identified through supervision. They were noted, but not acted upon. So this seriously questions the authority of the authority. Even at a higher level of control, we know that relevant issues were identified by ERA during safety certification and monitoring of the NSA. But also these did not lead to the necessary and timely improvement quickly enough, which in turn can lead to a structural deterioration of railway safety in the longer term. And although not linked to the causes of the accident or the severity of the consequences, the investigation has also identified a series of additional elements that are relevant for the safe management of incidents on the Greek railway system. There was no coordination, whether at operational or strategical level, of the different services at the scene of the collision. Each service continued to operate under its own orders, initiatives, and with its own personnel, without any interaction at the organizational level. One particular result of this is the fact that no proper mapping of the accident investigation site was performed. Knowledge of the correct application of the emergency plan, which is called the Human Loss Management Plan in Greece, was missing with several of the emergency services. No exercise to prepare for its coordinated implementation in the railway context had ever been organized. Furthermore, or even more important, at the moment that we did the investigation, no initiative was taken by any of the services to learn from the experience of the Tempe accident. It's clear that the initial collection of evidence for further safety investigations shows several flaws, resulting in the loss of potential vital information for understanding the causing and underlying factors of this accident. But maybe even more important, and I think Fabrice will witness with me that just 1 year after the accident, investigating it already had an impact on us personally. But we found that treatment of psychological impact of the Tempe accident was, with some exceptions for specific organizations, largely insufficient and in some cases non-existing. This was leaving not only victims but also relatives and railway personnel with symptoms of severe trauma that we identified even more than a year after the accident. So for me, the main lesson from the Tempe accident lies for me in the clear observation that safety of railways cannot rely on an individual. It can also not be achieved by one actor in isolation. It's an emerging property of a complex system where all actors, whether at the operational or the organization or controlling level, they need to understand and accept their responsibility, and they need to correctly implement the requirements that are put on them. Operators need to better understand the risks related to the operational reality of the current railway system and continuously monitor and improve the way the major risks are understood and controlled. And I agree with James' intervention this morning. We cannot predict everything. We cannot understand everything. So we need to find a better way of doing this. But this also includes what we can predict, like optimizing the performance and reliability of physical assets and manage the safety risks associated with it. Throughout the whole life cycle of the assets. It's not just putting them there and then forgetting about it. It also includes to regularly assess the competences of staff performing safety-related tasks and maintaining them. This in turn includes the set of competences related to non-technical skills and arrangements regarding physical and psychological fitness, not only when recruiting staff, but also during their entire career. In addition, it's essential to develop a system for performance monitoring, to become aware of any deterioration in the performance of safety-related tasks by all staff performing safety-critical or even safety-related tasks. At national level, it's important for a national safety authority to possess the capacity and capability for supervising the railway system with the aim of establishing a clear view on the level of safety performance of the whole system and the individual actors. Moreover, the potential to learn lessons from incidents and accidents in a non-blaming context need to be created at the system level. This should lead to the implementation of structural improvement measures that can create an environment that supports the work of operational staff. To achieve this, a well-performing national investigating body that can perform its investigations independent from any judicial inquiry is paramount. But also the existence of an occurrence reporting system that provides the necessary structure and taxonomy for a mandatory reporting of safety-related occurrences by all actors is important. The role of a national government, in turn, is to create a context in which the different responsible national railway actors have the human, financial, and organizational means at their disposal to meet the demands placed on them to develop and maintain a sustainable railway system. Finally, at the European level, we already agreed with the Commission that we need to collaborate to have a quicker implementation of action plans after issues have been identified. This should include a closer collaboration with national safety authorities, as well as the development of a framework to enforce member states to adequately and timely satisfy EU requirements that are put of them in regards to the functioning of the national safety authority and national investigating body and policy setting. All this was identified in the Tempe Accident Investigation Report, and we can only hope that all involved organizations recognize their responsibility and will timely and adequately act upon the recommendations that were addressed to them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bart. I think that was a really clear linking of the structural and systemic factors that put unacceptable pressure on the frontline operators. And I think probably everybody here can recognize that some of those factors have existed or maybe still exist in our own organizations. So I think very beneficial to remember that that filters down, and it's ultimately the frontline staff who bear the weight of those drifts and failures at a higher level. Thank you very much for that. Our next speaker will be Vanessa Garcia Lozana. She's the Deputy Director of Safety Coordination in Railways at AESF in Spain. Over her career, she's held various positions in construction and utilities, and she holds a PhD in civil engineering. She joined the Ministry of Transport in Spain in 2012, working on interoperability and safety. And her focus has been on issuing single safety certificates to rail companies and their supervision. Her talk today is going to be about using NSA supervision activities to check on reporting and reporting culture. Thank you, Vanessa.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Nora, for these kind words. Imagine you are a train operator assistant and you work in a train station every day. You are in charge of verifying that before the departure of the trains, the platform is clear. Then you communicate it via radio and then you signal departure. This is what is established in the procedure. But today is not a normal day. Trains are running out of time and you are under pressure. So you verify that the platform is clear and you signal departure, but you don't communicate via radio. In the end, the train departures, everything was okay, nothing happens. But in the end of the day, you reflect about your behavior. And you understood that you have skipped one step in the procedure, but in the end, nothing happens. What did you do? Should you report it or not? My name is Vanessa Garcia. I work in the National Safety Authority of Spain. And today, I would like to share with you over the next minutes, I would like to share with you how to promote reporting safety through a regulatory approach to capture real workplace reality. First of all, here we are talking about the attribute F2.3 of the safety culture model. We are talking about reporting. What is essential is to understand what is the meaning. And the definition establishes that routine and abnormal deviations are recognized and reported. Measures to identify and mitigate organizational silence are implemented. There are some ideas behind this definition. The first one, and one of the most important, is that always there are going to be gaps between the work as it is imagined and the work as it is done. In our daily routine and our daily work, there are going to be differences between the procedures and the put in practice of these procedures. This should be understood by every company. This attribute affects the whole company, from the top to the level, from the top management to the frontline workers. And it implies that some actions should be taken and monitored. And what is the role of the NSA? The NSA should support companies to better implement this attribute through supervision activities. And last but not least, this attribute implies material and immaterial factors. This is something I'm going to explain during the presentation. For an effective implementation of this attribute, we should follow a cycle. This is a process that never ends. Companies should fairly define and understood what is the meaning of reporting and make a diagnosis of the needs for implementing the reporting attribute within the company. Then they should define what are the measures and tools to successfully implement reporting. There are different measures. There are not only one measure that could be implemented. For example, some different IT tools for reporting. The ideal thing is that this reporting tool would be confidential, anonymous reporting. But there are any other measures, like implementing some specific meetings to talk with all staff in the company, to train people in the use of these tools. It depends on the needs the company have following the diagnosis they have made. Then what is necessary to do is to implement these measures. And the core part of this cyclic process is to use the tools. All the staff should understand and use the tool. This is essential for being successful with reporting. Last step is monitoring. And the monitoring would help companies to know if the reporting is successful or not, and then redesign measures if necessary, or define any other measures. And here, the NSA, what is our role? As it said in the beginning, we should help companies to implement better this attribute in an effective way. So in the case of Spain, what we have done as National Safety Authority, we have defined a supervision set of activities in order to check if the implementation has been successfully done within the Spanish railway stakeholders. So we have defined two types of activities. The first one, the first block, is formed by the classic techniques of supervision activities, audits and inspections. And here the objective is to check analyzing evidences. That's the reason we call them the material elements block. Here we are going to check in the audits if the companies have a tool, have implementing a tool, if they have defined different channels for communication through the safety management system, if the companies have a specific procedure for managing the reports they receive, if they give feedback the person that is reporting, if they have trained, defined specific trainings for using the tools. We are going to ask for evidences here. In the case of inspections, we go on site, on the field, in order to check if frontline workers, mainly frontline workers, know about the use of the tool, if they have an easy access to the tool, if they know how to report, if they know, if they have received a training on the use of the tool. But this is not enough. We have defined a second group of activities that are formed by interviews. And here, what we are trying to obtain is what is the perception of the staff regarding reporting. So here, we are trying to assess the perception. We are going to obtain immaterial elements. So we are going to ask people, do you find that it's useful to report? Do you know about the risk activity you are developing? Are you aware of the main risks that your tasks involve? Do you trust your company? Do you think your company is going to answer in a proper way? So, after this first set of supervision activities, there are some conclusions I would like to share with you. The first is that there are different levels of implementation of this attribute depending on the company. There are some factors affecting this implementation. One is the resources the company decides to use for this implementation, the level of maturity also, and the knowledge the company have. In the case of Spain stakeholders, the majority of them have implemented an IT tool for reporting. The majority of them have implemented a confidential reporting tool. But although the measures and although the tools that have been implemented, reporting is not neither used conveniently nor frequently. So the definition and implementation of tools and measures is necessary, but it's not enough for a successful implementation. So we decided to go in deep and analyze these immaterial elements. And what is the conclusion? The conclusion is that there are two immaterial factors affecting the successful implementation of reporting. And those immaterial elements are consciousness and confidence. Here we are trying to build the Parthenon. On the top, we have the attribute reporting, F2.3. And in the base, we have tools and measures. What does it mean? That it's necessary to have tools and measures, but it's not enough. It's not sufficient. We need to build two pillars, and these pillars are the consciousness and the confidence. What is the consciousness? Well, staff should be aware about the risk activity that are developing and the importance of reporting and collaboration with the only aim to improve. So companies should work in this factor. And what are the elements in this factor is based on? The knowledge the staff have about the risk activity. The experience is not the same an experience as senior staff than the newcomers. The perception of risk is different. The attitude. In some presentations, it was referred that it's not the same to have a proactive attitude than a reactive attitude. And also emotional factors affect the consciousness that people have at work. At least in my case, I don't have the same mood every day because there are different factors affecting our character, our mood. So what can the companies do? Here in this slide, there are some examples. This is not an exhaustive list. It depends on the needs of the company. But firstly, to work on consciousness, what is necessary is to define the objectives. What is the main goal of companies for working on consciousness? Maybe it's necessary to work in the direct and frank communication between all the levels of the staff, between the top management up to the frontline workers. Maybe the objective could be to develop a continuous training for making people be aware about the importance of reporting. Is necessary, maybe, depends on the needs that the company have, to promote the risk awareness, or assess to have a periodical assessment of the influence of emotional factors in workers. Once the objective is defined, the measures came after. Some measures that should be linked with the objective in order to improve the communication within the organization is to establish periodical forums for exchanging ideas in the different levels of the organization, or ask for continuous feedback, asking through questionnaires, through informal chats, or using for trainings some specific simulators, or using virtual reality in order to help people to be conscious about the risk activity that are developing. So it depends on, as it said before, there are not good or bad measures. It depends on the needs of each company. Regarding confidence, what should be improved here? Staff should have confidence on companies, and should be trust that the company is going to answer in a correct way, and it's useful to report. And confidence is based on credibility, reliability, and intimacy. The company should be presented for workers as a credible entity, as a reliable, and should have a kind of intimacy. In the same way, if the companies need to work on this, they should define firstly what are the goals, the objectives they need to achieve, and then define the measures. The objectives, ones could be to increase the transparency, giving the measure to implement this is to increase the quick answer when receiving a feedback, to do in a transparent manner, maybe to extend the answer to the whole company, It depends. There are different measures. Maybe it's necessary to promote assertive reactions, and this could be done through specific trainings, and also it can be created the role of a trust advisor in different levels of the organization. But as I said, this is not an exhaustive list, and every company should define the most appropriate measures for them. So the conclusions for companies. A successful implementation of reporting implies material and immaterial elements, and is necessary at least for the Spanish sector to work in consciousness and confidence. Different tools and measures could be implemented. It depends on the context of each company, and this is a cyclic process. It never ends. We need to continuously improve in the implementation of all attributes of the safety culture model. And this involves all the levels of the organization, from top to down. In our case, in the case of the NSA, what we intend to do is to continue checking the level of implementation of reporting within the companies. So for the next cycle, this is inclusive for the Spanish sector, we are going to continue doing audits and inspections in order to check if the reporting has been fully implemented within them. But as it's important to go in deep in the consciousness and the confidence, we are designing new techniques in order to fully understand, in order to check if in the end all of staff have embraced the reporting. So we are working on this. We are going to define questionnaires. Maybe we are going to define some specific journeys with the staff, direct observation, but this is something that is going to come for the next year. Let's come back to the initial story, just for the end. What did you do? Have you reported or not? No? Yes? Yeah? Okay. In the end, in this story, she finally reported, and then the company, after the internal investigation, realized that under certain conditions of pressure, the majority of the staff skip this step in the procedure, skip the communication. So they decided to redefine new trainings and to review the scheduling protocol in order to avoid stress in these peak hours. And this is an example that a simple one report prevents from a systemic risk. So every report has value. Every single report. Reporting isn't about punishment. It's about protecting life, improving procedures, and learning from experience. Reporting is not just a tool, but it's an important element for preventing accidents and saving lives. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. Yesterday I gave a workshop on reporting and I asked a lot of questions. I said I had no answers, but I think Vanessa had a lot of the answers in her presentation, or at least a lot of really strong ideas on how to promote reporting and to take value from it. So thank you very much. Our final speaker in the session before the Q&A session is Michał Zemcina. I've been practicing, but I need a bit more. He's the head of SMS management unit in PKP here in Poland. He's a seasoned expert in railway safety management with over 20 years primarily at PKP. In his current role since 2011, he supervises SMS documentation, coordinates risk management processes, and leads audits. He's a trainer in human factors and safety culture, and very impressively, he has trained nearly 2,000 employees. He actively contributes to safety improvement through international cooperation, and his work has been recognized with awards, including the Golden Safety Manager Certificate. His presentation today will be on improving level crossing safety. Please, Michał.
Thank you, Nora, for the introduction. As today I'm the last standing before you and the lunch, I will keep it briefly and I hope in a light and digestive way. So let me start with some information about information and data about the infrastructure that my company PLK manage. Here we have some information about the operated lines, turnouts, engineering structures, buildings, technical posts, and the most important for the presentation is the number of level crossing. But more to give you some more detail about the company scope, I have to tell that we run about 8.5 thousand trains daily, and we employ 38,000 people in PLK. So the scope and the range is quite big. Yeah, apart from the project I will present today, I would like to point out that PLK is carrying out many different initiatives to eliminate risk at railroad interface. One of the key actions that we are taking from many years is the complete removal of the level crossing, replacing them with tunnels or overpasses. Another important measure is the reclassification of crossings. It is always linked to the installation of technical safety equipment. On this chart, you can see how the number of level crossing in each category has changed over the past 8 years. And I can briefly describe the categorization in Poland because I believe it's quite similar in different countries, but it's good to know. The category A is manually operated with barriers. Category B is automatic crossings with barriers and lights. Category C is also automatic crossings only with lights. Category D is our biggest challenge. It's the only passive protected, so only with signs. Category E is pedestrian crossings, and last category F is private crossings. So as you can see on the chart, during the last 8 years, the company made a really big effort to upgrade the categories, and the most danger category, category D, only with the signs, with the passive protection, is going down in number, and about 2,000 of these crossings are now completely removed or reclassified. Yeah, the Safe Level Crossing campaign is the national campaign that we perform for many years, and the yellow sticker project that I will describe to you today is a part of the whole national campaign. The main objective of the campaign is to raise awareness, especially for the car drivers, and also reduce accidents at level crossings. Accidents with cars and with pedestrians also. Yeah, the challenges we face with level crossing safety are, as you can see in numbers, really serious. In Poland, we have about 200 accidents, mainly collisions, annually, and sadly between 40 and 50 people lose their lives in those accidents. And around 20 people are seriously injured. According to the investigation, about 99% of these accidents are caused by car drivers. And the Main reasons are rushing, ignoring signs, ignoring signals, and driving under closing barriers. It's also quite common in Poland. And when it is done, drivers really often don't know what to do when they are closed and trapped between the barriers. Here is the short video, and I will show you the example of the behavior of a professional driver who by definition should have a better understanding of risk connected with level crossings. Sorry? Too fast. Okay. Okay. That would be really helpful to show you the this video. Thank you. Oh yeah. Yeah, I have to add that this is the professional driver. His way of preparation to drive ambulance is totally different than like standard car driver. He should really have the understanding of risks, but his experience and training should prepare him to different environment, different situation on the road. And if in the emergency situation like this, he behave not as we expect according to rules, we should realize that standard car driver in the emergency also can behave differently. I really enjoy the workshops that we have here and that we had in Tallinn or Porto, when we could learn about how our brain function, yeah, what is the motive behind some decisions and behavior of railway colleagues, and not only, for example, car drivers. So we can see on this example even that in emergency we need to design system in so safe way that any decision won't be so dramatic like this one. This example ended, as you saw, safely, but I could show you a video record, exactly the same situation with ambulance that and dramatically wrong, because the gap between barrier and the train, the railroad, wasn't so big like in this example. Okay, moving to the yellow sticker project. It was launched in June 2018. It was PLK systemic response to the risks of accident that were regularly occurring on our network. However, the scenario of one particular collision played a key role in leading to the creation of this project. So, about a year earlier, it was on 7 April 2017, a train collided with a tractor trailer that had become stuck on a level crossing while transporting another truck. It remained stuck for several minutes, and many people tried to help, but no one contacted the railway staff to stop the train. Local residents went even to nearby crossing to warn the train driver, but since they did not know the railway signals, their actions were mistaken for greetings. Directed at the modern train that had recently been introduced in the service on Polish network. So this case showed us that the yellow sticker was the missing link in the chain, in the safety chain. That is a good example of understanding how we try to understand the reality, maybe not exactly the workplace, but the level crossing situation that often occur on our network. So this is our solution. All level crossing, not 4,000 as is on the slide, but 14,000, were marked with this yellow sticker. The sticker contains a unique ID number, the emergency phone number 112, and the number for railway technical services to report technical failures. The entire procedure, from the moment the incident is reported to the suspension of train traffic, takes on average 3 to 5 minutes. But we have also experienced that it takes less than 2 minutes. The driver of immobilized vehicle should call the emergency number 112, providing a brief description of the situation along with the ID crossing number. The 112 operator has access to a database linked to a map. After entering the crossing ID, he can see the exact location as well as the contact number of the railway dispatcher and also all emergency services at that very place. If a vehicle is stuck on the crossing and there is a risk of collision, the 112 operator forwards the relevant information to the dispatcher, who then passes the information directly to train traffic controller. And one additional information, maybe you are not all familiar with this, that in Polish Class B system, train control system, there is a tool we call radio stop, and it makes it possible to stop all trains within the range of the radio signal. So the train driver can use it also with, as the train traffic controller can use it. As the project has been promoted, the number of calls made by level crossing users has been steadily increasing. On the chart, we can see the number of these calls over the years, including data from 2025 up to the end of August. During the 6 years of the project's operation, thanks to these calls, about 1,600 trains were brought to an emergency stop, and in case of about 3.5 thousand trains, their speed was reduced. Every single situation in which an accident was prevented means saving property, or more importantly, protecting human lives and health. And these are our highest priorities. But the success of the entire project lies, on the one hand, in the excellent preparation and commitment of all entities that have been and continue to be responsible for its organizational and technical aspects. But it is also important to highlight the promotional side. Thanks to detailed statistics, as we have seen, the number of calls has been increasing year by year, supported by regular information campaigns. The safety level campaigns also reaches school and kindergartens, and through dedicated workshops, driving is instructor as well. Thanks to the modern IT tool, we are developing interactive educational materials and smartphone applications. We also work with influencers on popular social media channels to promote safety, but also the Yellow Sticker project. And on the regular basis, we organize train car crash simulations, which attract media as well as young audience. Thanks to research, we know that the campaign's reach is very extensive. And after we performed the checks in the society, more than 60% of people recognize our safety campaign. Over the past 20 years, despite the road traffic nearly doubling, we have managed to significantly reduce the number of accidents at level crossing. On the one hand, we are continuously eliminating level crossing, as you can see on the previous charts, but a huge part of this success comes from the information campaign as well as projects like the Yellow Sticker. Yeah, the few conclusions. This project is very practical and really low cost. It's based primarily on the implementation of organizational solutions. The data on the previous slides shows the scale of the project impact on the railroad safety in Poland. And moreover, I have to tell you that this kind of accidents account for about 40% of all railway accidents on Polish network. And the numerous awards and the recognitions granted for the implementation of this solution are good reminder for us that yellow sticker truly saves lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michał. Really interesting as well to have a practical application of safety at the front line and a really good result. And also thank you for proving again that nothing is more interesting to a group of railway safety professionals than a video of level crossing misuse. So now we have time for some questions from the floor. Oh, great, we have some hands up already, so please.
Hello, Lucas Have from Deep Blue. I have a question on the Tempe accident investigation. I was curious to know, in your work together with Fabrice, how did you manage to, the relationship with if any, with the judicial system, and what kind of actions did you put in place, if any, to prevent the risk that your conclusions or your analysis are used in a way to put the blame on specific people rather than pointing at systemic elements and causes?
I think that's a difficult one. For us, it was clear that the type of investigation we were doing, through the questions to the methodologies, would not necessarily lead to blaming individuals. We know that relatives, even the judges, had a different view on this. But in the way we try to write the reports, we've not focused on individuals or organizations. We try to be as factual as possible, linking to evidence, without any portioning of blame. But we're not naive. We know that this is, even, I think, 3 or 4 disclaimers and explanations we've put in the report, it will be used. So it's a difficult situation, for which I think there is no easy solution.
And just to follow up on that part, there's a question online, and I assume the legal process for that accident is still ongoing and the consequences are still being determined?
Yes, so the judicial investigation is still ongoing. I think they only came to their final conclusions a week ago, and the court case hasn't even started yet.
Thank you. Another question, yeah, please.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate Bart and Fabrice and all the people involved in the Tempe investigation, because the report is a great work. I think that it should be mandatory reading for all the investigators across Europe and beyond. And, well, my question is, well, we have seen that in the case of Greece, the NSA couldn't improve the level of safety in the system. My question is, does NSAs in general actually use their coercive tools with infrastructure managers and railway undertakings when they don't meet the requirements of the regulation about the SMS? Maybe Vanessa could also answer the question.
Yes, I can do it. I am going to reformulate the question. Do you mean if we meet that someone is not fulfilling the requirements, if you report it and if they change the way of procedure? No? So please repeat the question again.
If they don't change.
If they don't change, yes. Well, there are some different enforcement actions that we can apply if they don't change. In our case, we have guidelines where the enforcement actions are defined. Firstly, we have, it's mandatory for them when we detect some unfulfillment, they have to send us an action plan with different deadlines for solving the problem we have detected. If they don't fulfill the action plan, they say they were to fulfill, so we have different requirements we could do. And then in the end, we can punish them. But this is the last enforcement measures we decide to apply. The majority of them, depending on the level of maturity, fulfill the actions plan, the commitment to do. But we should be flexible because it's not the same deadlines for the same companies. It depends on the site, it depends on the maturity, it depends on the level of resources that are doing. So we as National Safety Authority, although we have different levels of enforcement actions, we should be flexible because in the end, the final result is not to punish them, is making them aware that safety is the first, and we should work together with them in order to implement the measures before punishment.
Thank you, Vanessa. We have another question.
Götz Walter, Association of German Transport Undertakings, the German sector railway organization for railways. I have a question to Michał. Thank you very much for your very impressive presentation and especially the statistics proving that your campaign, which is really very present also in the internet, is successful. Is it possible to give some clue of the yearly costs of your campaign? How many money you are investing and who is paying it? Only your company or also the Polish state that you have such a successful campaign?
The first years of the campaign were financed by PLK itself, but for I think 3 or 4 years we have some EU funds that are very, very useful for broad to reach the broad audience, especially by TV commercials because they are very expensive. But we have a few social media influencers who are free of charge for us. We don't need to pay them. They are engaged in the projects. So the time they spend on their programs and posts is free for us. But the very important part of the campaign and the yellow sticker promotional side is the education for car driver instructors. We find that this is the channel to reach a lot of young car drivers and the future car drivers who need to understand the risks, the hazard, and the way of behavior on the level crossing. The example that I showed you is pretty old, but it's not getting old. It still happened, and people don't realize that they can very easily, without any damage to the car, move the barriers and go out of the crossing safely. So yeah, this campaign and this promotional side is very, very important.
Thank you. For balance, I'm going to ask Johanna a question from online. So there were two I'm going to combine. How did you develop the survey questions that you use? Were there psychologists involved? And also, do they change every year? And if so, how do you manage to compare across years?
Yeah, and there is a little question for the sharing. For the SNCF group, safety is a common good. There's no problem to share. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can write me. Do not hesitate. We don't have a psychologist, but ergonomist. Trained in organizational and human factors. And we had the example of the survey proposed by the European Union Agency for Railways too. I don't remember.
So if the questions change
yes,
over different years?
About the questions. We will change the question during 3 years, but we will compare the fourth year with the first year, sorry. And we will see if we will progress or not. The idea. The fact is that in France, you can't improve what you don't measure. It's a fact. Thus, we conduct a benchmark with different companies, French companies, but worldwide companies. We benchmarked the chemical and oil industry, the energy sector, aviation and aerospace, and thanks to them, we have developed this methodology based on 3 elements combined together: managers' perceptions, operator perceptions, and field sampling.
Thank you. And you look at the same themes over different years, so you can compare.
Yes, it's a good thing. We have to define yes, the different themes that we will observe and question. But the questionnaire will be for all workers of SNCF Group in France.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions in the room?
No.
Yep.
I think there's one here.
Oh, sorry, back on you.
Yeah, Frank Schiffmann, Signon. I have 2 questions related to the presentation given by Bart, but also as a generalization. The first is, did you assume there is one big issue we can make a takeaway, even if we have an existing barrier, because we are not in a similar situation, but we must be very aware, no losing this barrier. And secondly, if it comes to barrier, in the most cases, I assume we have unknown barriers, and this leads us to near misses or no aspects. And it's important for me is there is still need to get these unknown barriers. This means a person who is more skilled than expected do something in the freedom, or violation against rules, but in a safe way, and it will learn, because if we change this person to another person, normal organizational change, who did not know that there was a barrier, then we're trapped also in a risky base. So these 2 questions, is there a generalization from your point we can take us together from this investigation?
I did not really understand the questions.
First is only, is there a major aspect? I would say be very careful also in the other countries who sometimes said, oh, it's a Greece problem, it's far away, it's not Western Europe. I think we have many cases there. First question. And second question, is there a need to check also the barriers which are not planned? Because if you change a person who acts in a safe way, but this is not planned, this can lead also to a risky situation. And I assume at the end, in the most cases, my expectation is we have very good trained people at the moment who uses freedom in rules, and nothing happened. This is the one barrier, and the other barrier is there's a violation against the rules, and don't blame the violation to the rule, but check if the rule is really safe. And this is for me a question, is there something we can get away even from the accident? If not, all okay.
So, as an answer to the first question, I think it's for me the main takeaway is that all actors in the system need to understand their responsibility and act upon it at all levels, whether it's at the operational or at the more higher controlling level. And we're not there yet. So that's for me the main takeaway. So Greece may be far away, but we see clear indications that also in other member states, similar problems, maybe not to that degree, but similar problems definitely occur. So that's for me the main takeaway. The second, I still do not understand what you're really. So,
I think, is it related to learning from normal work and when things go right, but maybe people aren't following the rules strictly?
Yes. So, I mean, for me, definitely in the context of an accident investigation, it has nothing to do with rule compliance. It's a bit the theme of this conference as well. we need to understand what people are actually doing on a day-to-day basis before we can actually judge on their performance. So for me, accident investigation has nothing to do with rule violation or even rule compliance. Not at all. And I'm sorry, but I'm still not sure whether this answers your question.
Close enough, maybe. You can talk in the break, I think. Okay, thank you. There's a question over here.
Yeah, thank you. Bart, in your presentation, you certainly told us that some of the findings were there was a need for additional procedures, SOPs, rules, and so on. And at the same time, before the coffee break, we heard James Pomeroy advocating for a less procedural-based approach, a more agile, more employee empowerment way of approach. How do we and this, I would like the reflection from the panel. How do we take the best from both worlds? How do we combine this? Do we need to go all the way to the procedural summit and go back again to more, or how do we? Is it about organizational maturity in the safety departments? Or how do we get the best from both worlds? That's the question.
So, if you think that in the presentation I somewhere said that we need more rules, then I did something wrong, because absolutely nowhere in the investigation report we recommend to have more rules. No. Okay, thank you, Michael. So, it's not the conclusion. I mean, for me, the solution is in having better prepared staff, but at all levels, and really to better understand what it is to work in the field. For me, the solution is there. And that is something, okay, we need rules, because it somehow gives structure to the way the organizations function. But that is not that cannot be the only solution. So you cannot predict everything. So you need to prepare staff to also deal with what is not predictable.
I might follow on from that question and put it to the whole panel, actually. So I think the world that we all inhabit is one of SMS and documentation, as James was talking about earlier. And your presentations have all been about giving a voice to people at the front line, whether it's after an incident has happened or proactively, or it's actually people outside the railway. But how do we bring those two worlds together? Because we can't throw out our documentation and our SMS, and we want to incorporate the voice. So do any of you have ideas on how we can bring those two things together?
Well, in my view, the current European regulation is not based in rules, it's based in requirements. So what should be defined are the procedures, and each company should define its own procedures. So rules are not permitting in the safety management system, specific rules for each country. As Bart said, the most important thing is to understand what should be done, how done it, and train people for doing in a correct manner, and then have good channels for communication in order to improve how the things are done. And this is not rule-based, this is risk-based approach. And I think that currently this is the framework we are developing, supported by the common safety method also. And I think this is the way to move forward. So this is my view.
Thank you, Vanessa. Yeah. Does anybody else have a...
I think there is no one perfect way for all of us, for all companies, because we need to take into account the national culture, and in that the organizational culture, and develop all areas or competencies that Bart mentioned. I agree with that, but in the best way for our company, because those ways are different in different countries, and we cannot copy the ways that the other success ways. We need to adjust it to our company, but the goal is still the same. The goal is still the same, to have the staff that is competent, that is not aware of telling the hard truth, and the managers who want to hear them and who want to react according to the system, according to the risk management system, but in one direction. As I said, our CEO yesterday mentioned that we have new safety culture strategy in PLK, and this is a huge step for us, because we are implementing in practice, we are implementing the non-blaming culture, the just culture rules, and we try to take everything what is the best, and we recognize in other companies what are the best ideas, best ways, but we need to adjust it all to our environment and find the best solution for our company.
Thank you. So take inspiration, but don't copy directly.
If I can
Bart,
just complement what I just said, I do not want to put the focus on the individual. I think the real challenge is to create an environment, operational environment, working environment, in which those individuals can actually succeed under all circumstances. That's not only about giving training to the individual. Maybe rules can be a part of it, but it's the wider work environment that I think we need to focus upon.
So I think all three of you are saying to focus on the competence and empowering, create an atmosphere where people can succeed and trust them to do the right thing. And Johanna, it sounds like you agree.
I agree.
Okay, perfect. Yep, we have another question here.
Nicolas Dochy, nuclear safety specialist. Bart, I have a question. What is about the government responsibility in that tragedy? You made the historical point that there were staff slashes, and I think it's a common political trend to deregulate currently, to use a assault machine like in Argentina to slash the public infrastructures and especially the critical infrastructure. So for me, there is a lesson to take away, is to request for any reform of a public policy affecting a critical infrastructure, that any change should receive a thorough risk analysis and benefits of this reform. And it's not just a great case, it's an overall case concerning all of us. I'm pretty sure you agree with this statement that is not a question.
The short answer, Nicola, is I agree.
We have 4 minutes left, Bart. Would you like to expand?
But to come back to government responsibilities in the railway context, I think I see 4 main responsibilities for member states that are already prescribed in the Railway Safety Directive, which is to set a clear safety policy. It's to have a functioning NSA, NIB, and it's to manage national rules. I think we need to hold member states accountable for this. And we're not doing it enough, I think. So, and of course, those type of organizational change decisions should at least reflect on the impact on safety they have. And for the moment, I don't see it happening neither. So.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question.
Maybe someone from the chat, I don't know.
I think we've covered. We have one question. We have. I think it was about what do you include in the education initiatives to help people avoid that situation where they're stuck in a level crossing?
Yeah, the question is about the campaign to schools and community. So Yeah, in schools and for younger kids than in school, we don't direct the educational meetings on the yellow sticker, but on safety behavior on level crossings and pedestrian crossings, especially how to avoid the risks that is unnecessary. For example, we showed them that if they can plan their way to school correctly, or the way to some meetings, they don't need to rush, don't need to hurry up in the last moment, and it will give them the time for wait on the red light at level crossing if it is on their way, or any other situation that can happen on their way. Yeah, so the main goal of educational effort is to show the safe behavior, how to behave also in emergency if the situation comes. But the materials and the lessons that we have for schools and kindergartens are especially directed for these young people to hold their parents when they're driving cars and don't let them go on the red light.
You're using a little bit of blackmail from the children to the parents. I like it. Thank you very much. I think that's all the questions we have time for. I know that Christoph has some important information about the visits tomorrow, but first please thank our speakers again for their excellent presentations. May we leave?
Yes, well, I kindly ask our esteemed panelists to stay a little bit longer so we can take a photo later, but over to you. And we have some administrative information, as we in Polish say, some parish information about the organization of tomorrow's event.
Yeah, I can take over. As we are all aware that we are waiting for the lunch, but please before, and you can digest those informations. Regarding the first technical visits, basically all the visits start here, so you don't need to travel anywhere. There are lists at the receptions. If you don't remember to which visit you have signed up for, you can verify that on your way to lunch. Please, if for any reason you would need to cancel your attendance during the visit, please let us know. Please let the staff know that we can, arrange all this information. There will be a special person for each of those visits. So please take note of that. Most of the visits will start at 8 o'clock. Before the hotel upstairs where we took the family photo yesterday, so this shouldn't be an issue. And for the first visit, your contact person, let's call it like that, single point of contact would be Krzysztof. So remember this face. Additionally, our friend Michał, if I could ask you to rise for a moment, will assist Krzysztof within this visit. There will be 2 additional guests or hosts even from the regional office, but you will meet them today. You travel from the hotel to the university, and after visit at the university, you will take an organized bus that will take you to the depot. And aside to what is written on the slide, the bus will take you from the depot back to the hotel. So everything should be arranged. I know that there are some slight individual differences. We will, of course, as we are here for you, we will accommodate all those wishes. So the second visit is fairly simple. Again, we meet at 8 o'clock in the morning. Our nice colleague who is handling all the questions in the background, if I could ask you to stand up. So people who are attending the second visit, please find our colleague Isabella that will facilitate your visit to the construction site. And it's fairly simple. You get on the bus, you exit the bus, take the tour, and return with the bus back to the hotel. A similar case for the third visit in the Heritage Railway Museum. Our friend Sarah, who is already standing up, will facilitate this visit. So you might have had contact with her up to date. So feel free to find this lovely lady tomorrow. Again, we start at 8. This is the problematic visit, especially the one for the early birds. I hope there are some here. You will need to look for me, and we will need to start a bit early. Again, from the hotel, we take the bus to the Colprem site and then follow the route as we go. Please don't be late. I know it's rather early, but I hope we can manage this, and I hope that this will be an interesting visit also for you. And we have the last visit provided by Nipin. If I could ask our colleague to stand. This is our host for the fifth visit. You start again at 8 o'clock before the hotel, and you follow our colleague throughout this interesting walk around the city with a debriefing afterwards.
Yes, and just a short information for those of you who could not participate in Nipit's second B session workshop yesterday. Kind apology for this, but perhaps this is also an opportunity. You can also join him in the walk, and perhaps if you would like to discuss the topics that were foreseen for this, I understand that this will also be available. So please consider this as well. And I believe that this is everything from our side, and we're, well, actually quite well on time. So just to wrap up, thank you. I think it was a very interesting discussion, and I think that we all see different ways how understanding workplace reality helps manage safety better, and how different and various the feedback and the information that we can gain from that is. And I think this is for the moment everything. Please enjoy your lunch, have some interesting and beneficial discussions during that break, and we'll see you back in 2.
Thank you.